Ladies and gentlemen, we don't come across cold hard evidence very often, especially when it comes to the Bible. Let's be honest. What I'm about to show you today is one of the most incredible discoveries we've ever come across, and probably one of the best pieces of evidence for God's existence that might even stump some non believers. Stay tuned to see this amazing discovery. For those of you who aren't aware, in the book of Exodus, there's a very well-known story of the parting of the Red Sea, where God instructed Moses to close the walls of the ocean to destroy the Egyptians who were trying to capture Moses and the Israelites. You see it depicted in movies, shows, memes, you name it. Many people are aware of this ancient story, but think of the story as something that never really happened. Well, I'm here to show you today that we have found evidence that that very story happens to be completely legitimate, providing even more evidence that our Lord of the Bible really does exist. In Exodus 14, the Bible tells us that God spoke to Moses and told him to tell the Israelites to turn back and camp between the sea and Migdol. God's plan was to harden Pharaoh's heart, which would lead to him chasing down the Israelites to capture and return them to make them servants. But what God had in store for Pharaoh and the Egyptians when they went hunting for the Israelites was much more than they bargained for. Well, Pharaoh rounded up his army and told him to bring 600 of his best chariots to come after and capture the Israelites. And after the Israelites were horrified seeing this and the Egyptians gained ground on them in the middle of the desert, they started asking Moses why he brought them all the way out there in the first place. Moses said to them, "Do not be afraid, be still, and he will rescue you today. All the Egyptians you see today will never be seen again. Trust the Lord. The Lord will fight for you. Be still." So the Lord told Moses to have all of his people walk towards the sea, reach out his staff, and part the waters so that the people may walk on dry land to cross the sea. Of course, the Egyptians followed behind, trying to catch up to them, and eventually entered the sea and continued inwards. At some point when the Egyptians were making way, God jammed their wheels into the sand, which led them to having difficulty riding through and slowing them down. When Moses and the Israelites finally reached the land, God told him to reach out his hand over the sea so that way he could let the waters flow over again. Moses did that. He stretched out his hand, which allowed the waters to flow over again. Well, the sea swallowed every last Egyptian, taking all their belongings and chariots with it. That was the day the Lord saved the Israelites from the hands of the Egyptians. Now that we did a quick rundown of Exodus 14, this is where it starts to get really cool and exciting. So the story began in 1978 when a man by the name of Ron Wyatt chartered a small airplane and was flying over the Sea of Aqaba, which we believe to be the Red Sea back then. So Wyatt was a part-time Bible explorer who was in the area on some archaeological research at the sites of Sodom and Gomorrah alongside of the Dead Sea. So when he flew over the beach, he said to the pilot, "That looks like the area that the Bible describes where Moses was trapped between the Red Sea and the Pharaoh's army. I need to go down there and take a closer look at this." Well, you guessed it, from there, he went down to that beach with a team of researchers, obviously, and they went scuba diving, and guess what they found? That's right, they found ancient chariots. Let's get this straight. This ancient chariot wheels, not one wheel, many of them, were stuck. As the Bible explained, the wheels were jammed into the ocean floor, into the sand. They were stuck and solidified and got fossilized and through all this coral and whatever ocean stuff grows. They've been sitting down there for years. We have discovered this now. This is a fact. And I don't even know what to say. I don't know if you guys are as shocked as I am, but when I learned about this, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. As I said when I started this video out, you don't come across, true evidence like this very often. I mean, there are a few things that are, for sure there's evidence of, but things that are still debatable. This is one of those subjects that I don't really think is that debatable. And if that's not enough evidence for you, well, I have even more. There have been other teams of researchers who have gone and seen this for themselves, and guess what? They didn't just find chariots, they found horse bones and human skeletons that somehow date back to right around that time frame. And if that still isn't enough evidence, well, there's one more incredible piece that I have yet to tell you. So a group of researchers, whether it's the same researchers or a different group, doing what scientists do, as they were exploring further, they noticed on the ocean floor where the Red Sea had parted was a little bit different than the rest of the bottom of the ocean. They were able to tell that the floor was raised and higher in some areas, which would indicate that it once was not complete ocean and was indeed dry land, and there were further scientists that explained this is quite literally possible. As humans typically do, we try to shut down things that don't make immediate sense to us, eliminating possibilities for potential evidence on certain subjects. Interestingly enough, with high enough winds reaching 65 miles an hour and above for a certain amount of time, with a certain range of temperature, something like the Red Sea could actually happen. As I said, I can't explain everything fully, so take a look at this clip here.
According to Dr. Carl Drews, who is a lead author at the National Center for Atmospheric Research, it's possible that very strong winds parted the sea for a period of time before collapsing back to its normal state. In a statement released to the NCAR website, Dr. Drews was quoted saying, "The parting of the waters can be understood through fluid dynamics. The wind moves the water in a way that's in accordance with physical laws, creating a safe passage with water on two sides and then abruptly allowing the water to rush back in." With this theory now in play, other researchers think that the story of the water parting may have actually happened, but in a different area.
So why I find this so interesting as well, as far as how it's physically possible, I happen to be somebody that's a very big skeptic. I was an atheist for many years, and I shut down every little piece of evidence for God's existence. But when I saw something was literally possible, was physically possible, that's when my mind was kept open, because I was like, okay, well, even if by the numbers it's almost impossible, it still is possible. So this is very interesting to me, because we can see that, yes, God can do things. God could quite literally do magic. God could make anything happen outside of our elements. But if we can prove that on Earth, something like this that's truly incredible and very rare could actually happen, that shows that God was just using our own elements on Earth to make this happen for this miracle's sake. I don't know if I explained that well, but to me it makes sense in my head. So if it doesn't to you, I'm sorry, but if it does, then we're on the same page. I'm glad you understand. I just find it so incredible when we come across discoveries like this that are quite literally, they are miracles, right? They are absolutely miracles. And there's not a whole lot of, there's not a whole lot of room to say that, hey, this is not God, this is clearly something else. And so when I hear something like this, I absolutely just, man, it gets stuck in my head. And I've been in a good mood all week thinking about this and the process of making this video to share with you guys, because I know if it makes me this happy to see some legitimate evidence like this, I know it's going to make other people just as happy, and maybe even more so. But yeah, folks, it is a beautiful thing. It really is. When we see God's glory, when we see things like this happen in the world, and we can see with our own eyes, well, I guess we didn't see that with our own eyes. Well, kind of, I guess. But when we hear these things or see these things or hear people's testimonies and see incredible things, there's really not a better feeling, I'm sure. You feel so much more closer to God. You feel like you're special. You feel like if I'm seeing this and a lot of other people aren't, then maybe I'm doing something right. I can't wait to see more and more discoveries. Every day that passes, we're going to, there's going to be a new team of researchers, or there's going to be new artifacts or something, and we're going to be seeing more and more proof, especially as we get closer to the tribulation. But man, this feels good. This does feel good to see something like this. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If this is something you guys find incredible and just an amazing, incredible discovery, by all means, please share this video, share it with your friends and family. If this can help one person believe and get closer to Christ, that is incredible. And again, that's really my journey here. That's my goal, is to grow this ministry, to expose evil, to show people evidence and proof and everything involving God. And who knows, maybe in 10 years I've helped 10,000 people, or maybe if it's just 5. It doesn't matter how much it is, but that is a part of the goal here. And obviously the other part of the goal is to become financially stable by doing this, which would be absolutely incredible and an absolute blessing by God. And that's done from you guys. So thank you very much for all the support and love and encouragement. I thank all of you guys, and man, I definitely couldn't do it without the support of you guys. As always, guys, thank you, God bless, I'll see you soon.